So good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone all around the place. Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning.
Good afternoon to a really amazing guest today. I'm so interested to hear Cole Bagley.
BakerBagwell. Oh my goodness.
God,
I can't believe I got him to do the intro.
Can we just start again?
You never make us start again.
Oh, can we keep going?
Yes.
Cole Baker-Bagwell. That's quite a name, Cole. But behind the name is a truly interesting and amazing person I want to hear from today about what she's learnt about a very important topic. And that topic is kindness.
I love kindness.
And other things, because Cole's got lots to say about lots of interesting things. But I'm really pleased to have you along today. And we're both very excited to have you, Cole. Thanks so much for coming and joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina, USA.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm happy to be here with you both. You're amazing, kind humans. And, you know, how cool is it that technology has brought us from North Carolina to Australia? And we're just right here together. It's amazing, isn't it? What a great world we live in.
I know. I feel like we're having a cup of tea together.
Yeah. I don't have any tea. It's almost time for wine here.
Even better, although it might be a little early for wine in Australia.
Yes. Well, you know, you live once, right? So you get to make your own rules, Suzanne.
That's right. Well, this is perfect lead into we like to start each episode, Cole, with a check-in to see how everyone's feeling right at that point in time. But we don't like to put our guest on the spot straight away. So I'm going to ask Richard to check in first. How are you checking in, Richard, today?
I feel pretty good. I mean, I'm excited to be talking to Cole and your good self. Just woke up, to be honest, and I had fantastic dreams. And I haven't had dreams. I can't remember dreams for a long time. They were kind of weird dreams, but very interesting. So I'm kind of looking forward to today, but looking forward to the next time with Cole very much. So yeah, checking in pretty well. What about yourself, Suzanne?
Oh,
how are you checking in?
I'm checking in pretty well. I have been awake for a while. I'm a mother of 3 and I've killed a spider. I've cleaned up ants. I've ordered lunch. I've done a lot to start the day.
Responsible.
But I must say, which we're actually going to get around to sort of talking about this today, but I do feel like the past little while I have a heaviness in my heart at the moment. And I think there's just a lot going on in the world right now. And I feel like that's sort of affecting me a little bit as well. Yeah. So as much as that's what thrills me though, is then having these conversations and talking about hope and what we can do. And just not feeling like I'm helpless, really. Yeah. So that's how I'm checking in. And how are you going, Cole? How are you checking in today?
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm super grateful to be with you both. I am coming off of, 2.5 hours of meditation that I had earlier today for something I'm involved in. So very mindful in this moment, very aware that I am seated in breathing. So that's wonderful. Suzanne, I share that heaviness with you. I kind of feel like I'm on a little bit of a seesaw right now between gratitude and, deep concern for our world. So yeah, I see you and I share some of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because you know what, that's exactly the picture I had in my mind of how I'm feeling as well. It's the seesaw. I feel like I'm sort of like in the resilient zone, but not high, not low, just there.
We're really not prepared for any of this though, are we? I mean, if you think about, going into year 3 of COVID, the pandemic, nobody was prepared for that. I don't think I ever imagined, I don't think many people did, that it would drag on as long as it has. We had to learn how to adapt and to become flexible and to really reinvent so many parts of our lives. So that's that was a big deal, really big deal. And now, we had this brief reprieve, mask off. We're seeing each other's faces for the first time in public, which here in North Carolina anyway has been so heartening, to walk in and see my vegetable person and say, oh my gosh, there's your smile. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah.
And now here we are with another very challenging moment in history, many challenging moments in history, as we think about supply chain and worker shortages and, this sort of domino effect of choices that have been made worldwide. So yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Cole, you've been involved in a very interesting project, and also you're not running a mining company, you're running a corporation, but it's called the Kindness Corporation. And well, just what an extraordinary sort of avenue of business that you're in, and also just sort of exploring that whole area. Tell us a bit about, how you got into that, what it means to you.
Who is Cole Baker-Bagwell? Yes. What's your story?
She's not a law firm like her name would imply. I'll tell you that much right now. So who is she? I proudly say that I am a corporate hippie. Never thought in a million moons that I would land in the corporate world, and, life kind of did its twists and turns, and there I was. First and foremost, I am a very spiritual person, not religious person, but very spiritual. I, believe in collective consciousness. I believe in higher power. I believe that energy begets energy. And I understand, neuroplasticity and our ability to influence our experience and then influence each other. And, that just flows out as well. So I'm a believer in good. I traveled to, the path that sort of brought me to the Kindness Corporation was all of those years that I spent in corporate America. And it really didn't matter if I was, with the tech companies in Silicon Valley or with the banks on Wall Street. The common denominator for business is people. People are doing business. People are inside of these houses, these organizational structures called organizations and companies, right? So I began to notice that when I was bringing in a little bit, just inching in a little bit of my mindfulness practice, a little bit of one of my yoga yamas, it's a very old yoga yama, rule of yoga, which is called ahimsa. It means do no harm. When I was able to bring that intention into conference rooms, everything shifted, and it was beautiful. People went from sort of sitting like this to sort of sitting this way. Mm-hmm. Sometimes tears.
Just so everyone knows, if you're just listening, that was crossed arms to open.
Crossed arms. Crossed arms, right? Crossed arms, so they could be sitting cross-armed. But then they would relax. They would literally unfold and open up. And in that space, what I began to notice over years was, trust was sort of brewing and collaboration was brewing. And the common denominator was kindness and intention. Mm-hmm. Can we agree to leave one another better? So started a consultancy in 2019 on my own called Cool Audrey. Met a fabulous partner over in London named Magnus Wood a couple of years ago. He also had a kindness consultancy, as crazy as that would be. And the two of us, just much like you two, enjoyed working together. We just truly enjoyed working together. And the ideas were like this. Yeah. We said, why don't we go ahead and take both of our companies and make them one? Wow. And the Kindness Corporation was born. So that's the path that got me here. Yeah. That's living my true self now, for, so fully into my true self, so fully into my heart, to what I feel I was put on this earth to do, aside be, from being a mother to my son.
Yeah. And you've had the opportunity of interviewing quite a few people in your podcast, which is marvelous. And I've listened to many, many episodes and great listen.
Might have even been on one.
No, well.
He has actually been one of my most favorite guests, Richard. You were so inspirational. I just had tears in my eyes the whole time we were talking. So thank you for your work as well. Amazing.
But I was going to ask, speaking to people on this topic, what was the sort of best, what did you learn from those interviews and podcasts yourself in terms of what were people actually out practically doing that was really useful and helpful?
Yeah, I love that question. So the whole point of the podcast, it's called Kindness Think Tank. And the whole point of it was I began to realize that when I started talking about kindness in corporate America, but then also in just regular life, that people sort of had this strange idea about it, that it was, soft or squishy or meant like we were all holding hands and singing Kumbaya, like everything, you're kind of the doormat, like the head nodder. Yeah. And I thought, well, gosh, if that's what people think, let me go out and understand it. So I spent, all of last year meeting people from all around the world and asking them, how do you define kindness? Yeah. And then help us understand how your work is bringing kindness into the world. And my hope was sort of twofold, that number one, that by hearing these different definitions, that we could understand kindness more fully as this, innate human capacity and capability that we just nurture along. And then all of this magic comes. But the other part about it was that I thought, like you, Richard, with your book, that's your fabulous book that you authored, if people could understand what kindness looked like in these different forms, whether it was a book or, whether it was a musical score somebody had created, or whether it was, the story of a fella who was, an ex-convict who is now consulting on ethical behavior. All of these things are kind.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if we can hear these stories, we could recognize it more easily and then be inspired to share it more easily.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. Well, and you know what, how I relate to that as well is because I've taught a course called Compassionate Integrity Training. And it's exactly the same. When you say that you're teaching compassion, some people are like, yeah, whatever. I know compassion, or it's something soft, but it can be it's so much more than that. So, compassion and kindness are just, they're integrally linked, I think. But I have to say, something that gives me a lot of hope, when I was telling my 14-year-old son that we were going to be interviewing you, and I said, Cole is she's one of the partners of the Kindness Corporation. He said, is that really the name of the company? And I said, yeah, it's the Kindness Corporation. And he, as a 14-year-old, the next generation, he said, Mom, that is just the coolest name.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, wow, for him to understand this is something that is really important, and that's, that's something cool for a 14-year-old. I just thought that is amazing. Yeah. I felt like I've done we're doing a good job if they're thinking that the Kindness Corporation is a good way to go.
You are such an amazing mom. I mean, that's so cool and so essential, and my son is 22. And one of the things that I've learned about, kids, kind of young adults his age to people your son's age, they're not children, they're young adults. They seem to have this amazing capacity for compassion, and I think it's even more so than other generations. It's not to say other generations are, lousy, but I think just the climate that these people are growing up in now, and the exposure they have with the world in their hand, on their phone, and, inundated with messages all the time, they're so much more aware of everything that's happening in the world, and so much more aware of the need for humanity and compassion and kindness. So, wow. Please tell your son I said hello and from the Kindness Corporation, and give him a big hug for me.
I will.
Yeah. If Magnus and I decide to make t-shirts, which I think could definitely be in the future, we will be sending one over to Australia for your son, and a couple for both of you as well.
I know. I was going to say, you'll have to send more than one. I'm not going to share with Richard.
Okay. Poor Richard. Richard, don't worry. We'll send yours in a separate box with like a special tag that says like oatmeal delivery from, figure it out.
No, I'd be quite happy to receive a corporate box from the Kindness Corporation. Yeah. I think that'd be wonderful. Yeah. No, I think it's a marvelous concept. Yeah.
And you've even got a kindness index as well. I love that too. And I was saying to Richard, in looking and reading about you and on your website, which we'll make sure we mention later on to everyone, that how your philosophy is that everyone should be able to leave, everyone and everything should be able to leave everyone and everything in a better place. Yeah. You know, it's just a beautiful way to be. And I think anyone who's able to then just put that into your consciousness, to think every person who I see today, everything that I do today, I want to try and leave it a bit better. You know, it's I just think that's a beautiful way to be.
Thank you. I mean, it's so powerful. And, you know, we arrived at that definition as a combination of ahimsa that I've already mentioned, do no harm. Do no harm didn't seem enough to me, though, because, you know, as somebody pointed out to me during a slightly lively debate we were having, which was so well appreciated and so timely, you could walk by, for instance, someone who is housing challenged on the street. And by walking by them, you've not technically done them harm, but have you left them better? And so for us, it was really important to bring in the accountability piece, bring in the awareness piece of our actions. And so in that case, under our definition of kindness, it is you notice a housing person challenged on the street. You say to them, hello, how are you today? What can I do to support you in this moment? You know, can I buy you lunch? Can I, you know, offer you a ride somewhere? Do you just need a friendly ear to listen to? And so that to me is the transformational, to us, to Magnus and I both, the transformational opportunity of kindness is, firstly, we meet the world with this different sense of awareness, a sense of caring for, you know, other than ourselves, caring for, creating that collective consciousness. And then in that moment, making that choice to leave that person or that situation better. And that requires a lot of intention. It's not easy because we're human. Yeah. We won't always get it right. But I know from experience that when we get it wrong, I do it all the time. I make mistakes all the time. I am more aware of the times that I have fallen short, and then I can correct those times. So that's kind of the big picture here, right? That's what we're trying to bring into corporate environments, and not just there, because it really impacts the human. So then it's work and beyond in our minds.
What are the challenges you've found in sort of getting into and trying to educate corporations? What are the barriers you're coming up against, and how are you going about trying to deal with that?
That is such a great question, Richard. Thank you for that. So, gosh, I would say the three biggest challenges that we run into is, number one, people don't really understand kindness, especially in corporate settings. It's not been part of the language, the vocabulary, the value system in most companies. You know, it's just not been there. So it's new. So that's sort of one piece, and we're working on that. And I do think we're making a dent there, which is great news. The second piece is that, you know, organizations are then thinking, well, how do I bring it in and still become a profitable place? How do we still grow? And we're doing education around that too, because what we've learned through our kindness research that we did last year was that you really absolutely have to have kindness. It's an essential core competency if you want to have organizational growth, profitability, stability, all of that good stuff, because all of that relies on human beings. And then the third piece is that, you know, there are just some people out there just giving really bad information out about kindness and kind of giving it a bad rap. Yeah. And they are misrepresenting what kindness and what mindfulness really is. You know, for us, mindfulness is the gateway to self-awareness. It's the thing that allows us to make that choice in that moment. But, you know, when you hear stories about certain celebrities who shall remain unnamed, you know, doing some free bleeding in New York City, for instance, with a group of people and holding hands and chanting and calling that, you know, mindfulness or kindness, then, you know, that's what we're up against. So it's really sort of creating a category definition for kindness in the workplace.
So it's more along the educational lines. You're trying to get into other corporations and businesses and teach them about the principles and the benefits of kindness. And is that the aim? It's not a charity, is it? It's not like you're not doing.
No. No, we are definitely, Kindness Corporation is a for-profit company. We do give a portion of our proceeds to 1% for the planet, which is really important for us. As we think about business, it's humans and planet. Humans need the planet, so it extends to all beings. So our work sort of boils down to three different things. We are trying, yes, to help organizations develop kindness as a core competency and portion of their value system. We know that if the competency is there and the value is there, that the two meet in the middle and the people flourish, which is awesome. And they thrive and everything else thrives as well. So we figured out a way to measure organizational kindness based on global research we did last year across the UK, the United States, employee research that we did. So we've created a way to help organizations measure kindness by way of a very simple employee questionnaire, which is really cool. And then we give them a diagnostic report and it says, hey, you're really thriving here and you're really deficient here. And sort of here is very comme ci, comme ça. So these are some areas that you can work on. And we offer some executive advisory around that, some kindness coaching, if you will, around that for key leaders. And then the last thing is the last sort of pillar of our offerings is something called Work Kind, which is a mindfulness program course that I designed for the workplace that is based on kindness, that brings practical mindfulness into the hands and, minds and hearts of anybody out there in the world. It's demystified. It is accessible and actionable. And when those three pieces come together, then you've got, kind organizations. Yeah.
I love it. I'm pretty sure that when I was in the workforce, the proper workforce, many, many years ago, kindness was never on my KPIs.
Right.
I wish it was.
Yep.
I think
it's on our KPIs.
I love it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely, we're actually calling kindness the human KPI for business. It's on the website. And we think that it is every bit as important as everything else, because if we go back to what we talked about, if you have a shared cultural ethos of kindness, where everyone is showing up with the intention to leave everyone and everything better, you begin to think about how that impacts listening, communication, innovation, collaboration, accountability, how that begins to create structures that are psychologically safe, where everyone is accepted, and not only accepted, but given space to show up authentically. That's where the rubber meets the road. And that's where, the companies then get everything they love: profitability, growth, market share, all of that good stuff. So that's
Have you been able to see that in when you've been involved in a company? They've had good success, and it's
absolutely. I just wrapped up some work with a pretty significantly sized tech company, and the last day that I was there, I may just start gushing again about this. A bunch of people came onto a call much like this, and they wanted to tell me what the impact of the work had meant for them. And I mean, the human stories, I could hardly speak. I was just sobbing and so full of love and compassion. And so in that moment, they reminded me that we have to talk about love and compassion and kindness and humanity in business. We have to. It's not just okay to, we have to, because we are human beings showing up in these spaces. And, so it's just this fundamental human thing, Richard. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, everything else goes off the charts. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. It fills my heart with joy to know that people are actually then responding to it. I absolutely love it.
I hope you have massive impact, and I wish you all the very best with that. It's amazing work, and it must be very joyful to do as well. Like what a fantastic job to be teaching people about this, and you're right. It's been missing from the workplace. In a lot of places. I think my little organization, and it does depend on the leadership a little bit as well. Like, if you're not going to tolerate people being intolerant of people or not loving to people, then other people will pick up on that and say, oh, I've got to. They then get into the habit of being courteous and kind to people as they're coming through the business, and it makes an enormous difference to a business, I think.
Definitely. Well, I'm thinking that is a good segue into our next part of the podcast, don't you think? When talking about leadership.
Yes.
Talking about leadership.
Confront one of the more difficult
Yes.
leadership problems of the world right now.
Yes. Yeah.
And Cole's going to solve it for us.
Yeah. So this is the part of the podcast where we read a little excerpt from Imagine, which is basically,
you can't see it if it's on a podcast, but
oh no, this is the
on
book.
The video podcast.
Yes, this is the book,
Yeah.
written by a Richard A. Harris. But and basically, it's our dream. It's our dream of what the world could actually be like. And then we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about how we get there. If we ran the world, how are we going to make this happen? And we thought that with everything going on at the moment, we would look at the Russia chapter.
Yeah.
And so this would you, it doesn't specifically say who I'm going to be reading about.
No, it is the president of Russia, however.
Yes.
And his name in the book is Outsky, which is sort of opposite of Putin.
Ah, I did not realize that.
Anyway.
And who's he talking to?
Talking to, well, he's talking to the TV, I think, the Russian TV channel.
He's going to be talking there, but I think
he's hanging around with the Prime Minister Medvedev. Well, it's not called Medvedev, it's Lemontiev.
Okay. Well, let's have a read, and then we're going to have a think about how on earth can we make this happen? What's going to happen here? So they're having a discussion, and he says, one of them says, "We have failed our very humanity, our very intelligence. Did you ever feel guilty for the other things we did, my friend?" Vladis, always, always. There was nothing to do, however, than enjoy the madness, the power, to go along with what we were doing. It was like a festival of guilt and regret amidst a sea of glitter that couldn't be resisted. What about you? So again, this is after Imagine Day. So this is once they have actually become conscious and compassionate people. No, I wanted every minute of this madness. I equated it with a worldview of our people discriminated and destroyed in their millions for century after century. We had the brains and the muscle to infiltrate and subtly derail our enemies. For me, it was payback for our demise, a lifting of the yoke without giving up our fierceness. I know I was ruthless, cold, selfish. I see that now all too clearly. Such stupidity, Mitya. Can you see all of the possibilities we missed to become a truly great nation among friends, and we blew every single time? We molded ourselves as enemies and ingrates. We were deeply foolish of our people, complete failures. A handful of people we benefited. Millions we made suffer many years beyond what they needed to. Get the TV people in. It is time to talk to the world for the first time. Outsky put on a plain t-shirt and some jeans. He sat in front of the crew, about to broadcast his message to the world. My fellow Russians, people of the world, today is perhaps the most momentous day in the history of the world. I greet you tonight not as the president of Russia, but as an ordinary citizen of the world, working to dismantle all of the mistakes of our past. It is with much joy, seeing you dancing in the streets of our cities, that I come to you to resign my office, but much more, to offer anything I can to help to understand where we have gone wrong and how we may rectify it. It is time to confess, despite my intention to simply advance the cause of my own nation, that I have made countless selfish and stupid mistakes. As you are aware, from 9 p.m. tonight, I received the signed departures of my Prime Minister and very good friend. Well, and then we'll stop there, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think? Is this the Russia? Is this the Russia we want in the world?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to collect myself because that the thought of the current leader of Russia having that type of awareness to say, gosh, I've really blown it, and then the humility and the courage to say, it's time to reset. Let's do something different. It's just, gosh, so far away from where we are right now. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to imagine. I mean, really, Richard, it's incredible writing, almost prophetic writing. considering where we are right now.
I wish it was prophetic. I wish it was.
Well, we could get there. We could see that day. One of the things that struck me, Richard, when you and I spoke and you were sharing some of your ideas from Imagine about how the world can slowly shift and we can have more equality and kindness and, opportunity for everyone, not just for a select few, and truly just live into the fullness of our existence here, together.
Yeah.
You may recall me saying to you, we have to get you a seat at the UN. We have to, because your ideas are not fantasies. They're possibilities. They come down to choice. They come down to values. They come down to priority, to intention,
It's all inside, isn't it? It's all inside, as much as even in the book. It's not like as if you implanted something to make I Day happen. It's just a change of our consciousness.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. It's a massive shift. It's
the trouble, the real politic is so difficult. Like the reality of this guy invading a fellow neighboring country and, bombing cities. It's just, it's the complete opposite of kindness. I mean, it's nuts.
But you know what you know what, Cole, you picked up on it straight away. One of the things that I find so interesting is that he's supposedly doing these strong, I don't know, this is him showing his strength. But in fact, in reading that, you see how much more strength it takes to admit that you were wrong, to say that this, that's what comes across to me as well. I read that and I go, that is a strong person.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's the other misunderstood bit about kindness, is that it is strength, because even in the most difficult situations, the ones where we feel angry and frustrated and unheard and disrespected and all of the things out of control, all of those things that we all experience as human beings, for a person to be able to still say in that moment, my intention, my wish, my action will leave another person better, is absolute strength and requires so much courage. And it is this big, beautiful world that you've dreamed, Richard, that you've imagined. It is possible. It is possible, one person at a time. I think it really boils down to, we begin by, Suzanne, you mentioned it, shifting the consciousness, shifting the awareness. But to do that, we have to also be willing to let go of a lot of the things. I call it, Samsonite luggage without wheels, full of rocks. It's full of ego and fear and uncertainty and bias and agenda. We have to let go of that. We have to be willing to travel a little lighter and maybe to travel into the unknown a bit, and to be vulnerable and to take a leap, to trust our fellow human. And when we're able to do that, and when we are able to see the value of all life and not worry about, I need to control, I need to be in charge, because if I'm not, then I don't have identity. A lot of leaders in this world, not just in Russia, but in the business world too, are struggling with that loss of identity right now. If we can let go of that though, and if every single leader in the entire world of countries, of companies said, I'm going to show up in this way. This is my commitment, my firm and fast commitment. Every action, every thought, every word, I will move with the intention of leaving you better. Then your world is possible, Richard. Your world is possible.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? Okay, this is my imagining. My imagining is that the next time, maybe it's maybe not the UN even, but I'm thinking like you get I don't know, one of those big summits where everyone comes together, the NATO, G9, I don't know, whatever. But then you have the kindness corporate. Can you imagine if the leaders came together and we actually had like a session on kindness, or we got to talk to them, and rather than everyone just putting in their opinions and talking about their own countries, to actually like have a little educating session.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible to change the world fairly rapidly. It would be possible.
Yeah.
But the trouble is that the reality, the willpower, the education, the intolerance, all these sort of barriers that we've got. But I guess you're heading that world and into the right direction, and that's just so important. And
thank you. I don't even think it's that hard to shift it. I mean, it's just that we have this very primal part of ourselves that rears its head. It comes to play. And we can see it in our political structure here in the United States as well. President Biden is trying to move things forward, to do certain things. It doesn't matter. It could be Biden, whatever president, just pick one. Kennedy, it doesn't matter. You can choose any of them that you'd like. And you're always going to have people, in the House and the Senate who are saying no, folding their arms, shaking their heads, because in reality, the thing that's motivating them are the things that are filled inside those pieces of Samsonite luggage with no wheels. It's the ego and the agenda. I want to get elected. I need this. I receive money for this, right? So if we let go of that, like that has to happen for any of this other stuff to work. You can't just say, well, I intend to leave you better, and then you show up with ego. Those two things don't go together.
So it's about systems as well. But changing a political system is
totally
really hard.
Yeah,
you've got to get the politicians to agree to change the system.
Yeah.
And we're a little bit entrenched.
But isn't it funny? Because we're the ones who, well, in most cases, vote the politicians in.
But do we really have power? Do we really have power?
Well, right, exactly. That's a whole nother conversation and a whole nother, it's Imagine Part 2. I think imagine a political system that actually works in favor of all the people. Richard, there's your next book. Well. There's your whole next book. But so that's where I think we can get really paralyzed, right? When we begin to look too deeply and we begin to say, oh gosh, then I've got to change this and this and this. In reality, that's why we're here, right? And that's why we're here as I, as you, right? All of us. In reality, if we just each one of us starts right there with, I commit to kindness. I commit to doing my best to leave everyone and everything better. The systems begin to sort themselves because the decisions follow the commitment, right? But if we start thinking about the systems too deeply, whether it's politics or education or healthcare or whatever, we can become frozen because they're so big, so much. So, I mean, imagine right now, we're talking about Russia and we're talking about Ukraine. Imagine if it's just going to move me to tears. I can feel it coming on. I mean, imagine if, Putin made a grand statement. Imagine if he showed up as your leader in your book and he walked out into the streets and he said, wow. He had this moment of consciousness, this moment of reflection. And he said, from here on out, everything that myself, my government, my country does will be in favor of humanity. And you can imagine
what a change in the world.
Joy. And I mean, forgiveness almost, right? I may be overly optimistic, but I believe that even somebody who had been, persecuted, who had suffered under his hand might find it in their heart to sink into that and offer him some acceptance and some grace. So it
would be an incredible thing to see that level of enemy, I guess, would come to some sort of consciousness that the world doesn't have to be like this, that there doesn't have to be this confrontation. But it's very complicated. I hate to say it, but
I know. Well, you know what it makes me think of? And I guess I'm thinking, last night I was watching the news, and that was when the children's hospital had been bombed. I mean, how do our listeners at home put this together? How do they go, okay, yes, they've got this great imagining, but I'm seeing that happen. what can I do? You know, how do I keep hope when I see a children's hospital that's just been bombed?
The short answer is it's really tough. It's really tough. You know, we talked about the social conditions and the trauma we've experienced. And I mean, whether it's firsthand or at a distance, it's still there and it's really hard. So I would say that I have two answers that people could try. One thing is, remember that every one of our individual choices adds up to collective choice. So when you are standing in your power, when you are in your home, in your community, what is it that you can do to actually leave someone better? You know, it doesn't mean you can go pack some boxes. Doesn't mean you can, collect money from your community to send to people who need it. Doesn't mean that if Ukrainians are able to start coming over to the United States, that we can open our doors, or any of your listeners, wherever they are in the world, that you could be a host family. So be thinking about the things you can do, because every single one of us has that power, right? That is, and it's no small thing. All the small things equal big things. So that's first. The other thing that I'll say on a very practical level is I find myself going back to the seesaw, Suzanne, that we talked about at the beginning, having to balance what I call touching the cactus with wrapping myself in the blanket. So we need to know certainly what's happening in the world and have that awareness. But how much do we need to take that in? How often do we need to take that in? Because that is akin to, just laying your hand, or your whole body for that matter, on top of a cactus. So balance maybe you touch the cactus with the top of your fingers, so you are aware, so you can then empower and say, what am I able to do, and take action. Balance that with the blanket, with surrounding yourself with people you love, with exercise, with sunshine, with the things that will feed your soul, because feeding your soul keeps you strong so that you can go out and touch the cactus just a little bit more every day.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the touch the cactus and wrapping yourself in the blanket. And, one of the things I know personally, and it's, as you say, it can be going for a walk. It can be getting out in the sunshine. For me, one of the things that helps me is having conversations with people and coming back to that, hey, we're all human and we've all got feelings, and really looking at that humanity of, they're just like me. Whether you're talking to a surgeon or a president or a mom, we're all people at the end of the day. So, and that for me is one of my, one of the ways that I balance myself there as well. So I love that. I love your suggestions there. And I think that's sort of like because we've spoken about the systems, like the big picture. And that is where we like to then come back and say, what's happening now? Like, what can our listeners do now, today? Yeah. And I feel like that's what Cole's just answered for us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, and also, Suzanne, like, remember that, all of these systems that you've mentioned, Richard, that you have brought up, that we've all been discussing, all of those systems are just, they're created by people. They are overseen by people.
Yeah. And they can be changed.
How easy do we forget that? How do we,
I know. Yeah. It's not like some runaway wagon, that somebody else has created. Like, we have created these things.
Yes.
We have made these decisions.
Yeah.
We are still powering them with decision, right? So
yes.
Getting back to Imagine, which is one of the loveliest visions for humanity ever that I've ever experienced. Truly. Getting back to that, if we remember that we're powering the systems, that we're building the machine, well, let's build a different machine.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Fantastic.
One of my kids, I'll let you go.
I was just going to say, when, you've done this on a corporate level and this is your world, your business and everything now, how has it translated into your personal life? How have you been more centered, more, you were saying before when we were talking that you really have found yourself.
Is this a facade? Is this a calm facade you're showing us? I don't think so.
No, it's absolutely not. It's the thing that when I was in my 20s, actually, almost caused me to suffer a nervous breakdown because I was in corporate America trying to be someone else, trying to wear the mask, showing up and trying to mold myself to something that was not me at all. I was the kid like walking barefoot and petting every animal that I could see, and the peacemaker. I mean, this is who I've always sort of been. And I don't have all the answers, but I am living into the very best part of myself and sharing that with the world. The thing that's changed me is that I get to do it full time now. I get to focus full time, but it is the essence of who I have always been. And I am highly imperfect. I've made a million mistakes. I will make a million more. But at the end of the day, this is me. Like, this is what you get.
Yeah. Very
and
nice.
It's beautiful.
Person,
it's beautiful.
I would say. A lovely person.
Thank you.
So we've talked a little bit about what you're working on currently, but is there anything else you'd like to tell us about where you're going? What's the future for Cole?
And how can our listeners find out more about you?
Sure. Wow. So, the Kindness Corporation is up and running, and they can find us there by looking at thekindnesscorporation.com.
Can I just ask quickly with that? Is that just, you've mentioned that that you're in the US and Magnus is in the UK. What about the rest of the world? Do you do worldwide?
Oh, yeah. Well, there are some countries that we're not authorized to work in. Unfortunately, the ones that probably need us most because of banking and tax laws. And that's a system that we could change perhaps somehow. But with the exception of those few, yes, we can work worldwide and through the magic of Zoom and Google and all the fabulous platforms we have out there, right? We can just sit right here together like we are right now. So, thekindnesscorporation.com, and make sure you get the one that says Reimagining Business with Kindness, because there is a family of 4 that we've learned about called the Kindness Corporation as well. And that's not us. They are lovely people doing work in their community, but slightly different. Exactly. So kindness, yes, but slightly different than what we're doing.
You're .com.
We're .com. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. .com, thekindnesscorporation.com. And, the most exciting thing is that we're launching this Work Kind mindfulness course that will be available to anyone, anywhere. I will facilitate online for now and hopefully back in person sometime real soon. And then we've got a book coming out this summer. More to come on that, but yeah, those are some exciting things.
Wow. Yeah. And is there will the podcast be coming back, do you think, at any time soon, or there's just no time for it?
As you know, creating a podcast is a lot of work. It's not just the conversation, which is the part I love so desperately.
Yes.
It is all the other stuff, the editing and, researching and artwork and whatever, all the social media that comes with it. So I hope to get back to it. I have to find, I had to choose myself first. I was feeling maxed out. So, kindness starts with self, feeding self, as I mentioned before. So as we get some of the other things, sort of the book out the door, and we'll see. I mean, the platform's still there. People can still listen on Apple and Spotify and all the places.
Lots of good episodes.
Yeah, it's all still there. It's just kind of waiting for the right time. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Lovely. Well, Cole, thank you so much for being with us today. Wonderful, wonderful guest. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom and your work.
And your energy. Yeah. She's got such beautiful energy. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. It was so much fun being with you both. I mean, you're amazing, inspirational, hilarious, like soul-filling. And so thank you so much for asking me to join you. It was really a privilege and an honor to be here with you today. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Cole.
Oh, and do you know what I keep forgetting to say at the end of each podcast? If people like us, then you've got to like us.
Like us and subscribe.
Subscribe. What are all the other things you need to do? Follow, tell your friends.
Share.
Do all of that stuff for us. Let's get the word out there. Let's spread the kindness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All the very best, Cole.
Thank you, Cole.
Thank you so much.
We will speak to you soon.